Hey, welcome to the Modscast. That was the view from my window the night of the 4th of July. Pretty cool. Fireworks going off across the valley. Hope everyone had a good 4th. Pretty eventful weekend on the media political scene, or the political media scene, or the nut house, as it seems to be more and more. I talk a lot about adults and grown-ups, people acting like adults, and not a lot of that going on, certainly in the mainstream. So I wanted to share that video because it was pretty cool to think about what a great country we live in. And to say that isn't to have blinders. It's to understand human history in perspective, what most of the world's been like for most of history, and the exception we have in place. Looking across the valley, I mean, every household is lighting off fireworks, and I talk a lot about sovereignty and individual American citizens being kings or queens in their own right, having their own celebration, celebrating their sovereignty, which is a cool thing, and a rare, very, very rare thing. So a couple things that struck me as dissonant, that is to say, it's a weird thing only in America, and yet there are things that aren't necessarily good things happening in America. Notably, the Trump tweet, WWE tweet, and the whole thing about, well, this is 20th century presidential, as he claimed, right? Or modern presidential, I think is what he said. That social media is modern presidential. If he's right, then modern presidential is childish, juvenile, and oversensitive, and it caters to the masses the way WWE does, which is entertainment. It's entertainment and not serious. And for most people, Mr. President, the business of dealing with foreign powers and determining and protecting that sovereignty that is the very reason for the 4th of July. Politics is serious. It's not everything. It's not supposed to be everything. In fact, it's supposed to be pretty insignificant in America because, as I've said before, the whole idea here was that politics wasn't going to be an issue because we were supposed to be sovereigns governing our own selves. So we would only need to be worried about politics if there were external threats or for the maintenance of infrastructure between states, because we would solve things ourselves. Politics is only a big deal if you need the government to solve things for you. And all those fireworks and all that stuff is a bunch of people. And by the way, most of the people, I don't know the regulations for every little area that was lighting off all those fireworks, but I know like in one of the nearby cities they're completely illegal, but people light them off. Part of their sovereignty, they do it in a responsible way. Yeah, there's accidents every year because there's going to be dumb people. That's the price you pay for freedom, but there's people celebrating their sovereignty in a very real and meaningful way. And by meaningful, I just mean significant in the celebration of it, right? By exercising their right to responsibly exercise their power to do something that, increasingly, certainly the big giant shows are reserved for people who are licensed and have done all the paperwork, and that makes sense because it's dangerous, but, the individual's right to do that if they want. It's a cool thing. It's a cool thing. There's markets set up all over where you can buy these things and celebrate. It's part of sovereignty, so it's cool. But the Trump thing, and then the CNN blackmailing of the guy who they claim was the source of the thing, which I'll talk about in a minute, because both are troubling trends in an ostensibly free society. So Trump tweeting. There are people on the one hand who say, who are going to hate Trump anyway, all right? And as everyone here knows, I want the president to succeed because I always want the president to succeed, whatever his party is. I think the president is a placeholder, that his job is to sit in that position and lead, and to respect that position because it's not his, any more than it's his house, right? They call it the people's house, but it's not a palace. He doesn't own it, the people own it. and he is allowed to live there while he exercises the functions to which he's been entrusted. That's a serious job. It's not a clown. It's not you in your own house on your own thing. It's embarrassing. And there are people so people on the far left are going to hate everything Trump does anyway. Then there's the Trumpkins who are going to be think everything he does is awesome and hilarious. And of course, you've created a situation, and this is one of the things we're seeing now is backlash. When you allow things to go on for so long and you don't have serious conversations about the implications of things, you get states where things get ridiculous. What do I mean by that? Well, because we've censored speech, because largely from the left, we've censored speech in the interest of political correctness, trigger warnings, safe spaces, all that stuff for so long. What you're seeing is a backlash. So now people love a guy who just says whatever. Okay, the comment on the NBC co-host about her having a bloody facelift and stuff, come on, right? That is juvenile trash. It's troll stuff, right? And but the reason people love it is because they just are dying for someone to say what other people won't say. Why? Because you've been so restrictive. You've stifled what people have been able to say for so long. People sit in meetings all the time and they think of, well, this seems kind of ridiculous. And they want to say something, but they don't because they're afraid. One, they haven't been trained on how to say it in such a way that they can't be accused of things. Two, they don't have the strength and confidence to say, look, if I make this comment, it doesn't make me a racist or a homophobe or whatever. Okay. But they're so worried about it that they don't say anything, even though they might think something different than what's being said in the meeting or whatever. So, but what you get is a backlash, right? And some of the people have justly expressed concern that the fact that you haven't properly talked about or labeled the extreme threat, the threat of extreme Islam to our society, and in particular in places like Western Europe, that you're going to get an even further backlash. In other words, if you don't address this and start dealing with it, what's going to happen is somebody really, really dangerous, beyond anything that's been out there so far, will gain popularity because the violence will continue and you won't give people an outlet. So the more you let extreme positions go, on one hand, apparently harmless ones, right? Oh, well, it's not violent. We're just telling people not to do this, or, But what you're doing is seeding a fertile ground for backlash. So you have a bunch of people who don't think this is inappropriate. They'll go, oh, well, it's modern presidential. Well, it's still childish. You can call it what you want. It's still childish. Now, if that's what you want in the presidency, if that's what we as a society want in the presidency, then we got a problem, right? We all know. We all have our home face and our work face. And I talk to students about this all the time. Different levels of discourse, different types of discourse, depending on the situation. And that's normal. I tell my students, you guys talk differently when I'm not around than you do when I am around. That's normal. It doesn't mean you're not genuine, right? But there is a degree of, if your boss is a jerk or your teacher's a jerk, you can't tell them that because they're in a position of power over you, right? If you just don't get along with them. Now, this is different than what I talked about in the video on Beckett, where if your boss or your teacher asks you to do something that runs counter to your morals, that's different than being irritating or not liking them. Okay? It's normal. There's going to be people in the world you don't like, you don't get along with. That's normal. You have to learn to deal with it, right? But when someone asks you to compromise your morality or who you are, well, those are different times. And we've reached a point where I think people are often compromising their morality willingly to avoid conflict, as I said in the Beckett video, and that's a problem. But here we have a president, who's acting like a child, and someone needs to tell him that. And I'm sure there are people who do. Well, I hope there are people who do. The idea that people go, oh my gosh, there's all this tension in that White House. Good. There should be. There should be people who are arguing about things. You look at what characterizes dynamic organizations. Conflict. We become conflict averse. You can't get excellence without conflict, without challenge, without debate, discussion, sometimes heated, okay, especially about ideas. Now, if you're attacking each other personally, that's stupid and pointless because you're not in the realm of ideas. You're in the realm of the playground at that point. And that's why the Trump tweets are stupid. I mean, for any number of reasons, right? They're stupid and juvenile. And, Now, for those who go, well, I don't give a crap about the dignity of the office. Well, you should. You should because it matters. Not because it's some conservative traditional value, but because it matters. Because symbolism, significance, respect, those things matter. Yeah. It's the same thing here for people who say, well, teachers and students, there shouldn't be this line between teachers. Of course there should be. Teachers are looking for authority figures, especially teenage students. In this day and age, where they're overwhelmed with information, they're afraid. They like to know there's somebody who's got some answers. Not all of the answers, because they're smart enough to know that nobody does. But somebody who's got some answers and confidence to do it. Because if you turn in a crappy paper, and you know this if you're a student, if you turn in a crappy paper and you get an A because the teacher, for whatever reason, the teacher, wants to build your self-esteem or wants to, make you feel like you're part of the same group as them and you guys can all hang out and talk. That scares the crap out of you because you didn't do a good job. And you got an A and you think, oh my God, right? And that's just an adult acting like a child again because they, want to belong. Instead of saying there's a difference between children and adults. Here's how adults behave. Here's how children behave. It's a problem. Having these important, significant, symbolic things matters. And the way Trump talks at work and the way he talks at home should be different. It's normal. Shapiro's talked about, too, being leery of even the Project Veritas videos, which I think are great. What people say, using what people say in recorded conversations, people say things differently. Now, those aren't jokes or things. They were commentaries on their work, which is a little different. But, we have different personas that we use, different masks we have to wear. Now, the trick is not to become inauthentic. That's a challenge for everybody. How do I wear all these masks? Employee, in my case, right, father, husband, brother, son, right, all these different things. Now, again, the trick is to figure out who you are in the middle and have that core be true. But even so, you're not going to, you can't just say, you're not going to talk the same. Like when I go on a camping trip with my buddies, I talk the same as I do when I'm talking to parents at a parent-teacher conference. That's normal. People know that, right? To do that is indifferent, to not see the difference in the environment. And to be honest, Trump's manifesting a bit of indifference, to not recognize that when you're the President of the United States, you got to act different. You can't tweet the same. And it betrays the egotism that we know he has, right? That, the rules are different for me. No, they're not. The rules are the same for you. In fact, the whole point of the presidency is that you're just another American who the people decided they could trust with this power. But they don't think you're different. They're not supposed to think you're different. Monarchs ruled by virtue of thinking they were different. President Obama assumed he was different, and the rules didn't apply to him. Yeah. Again, presidents have done this throughout history. Right? It's throughout the history of the nation. It's problematic with a few exceptions. Right. Lincoln's one. Washington, who stepped down. Right. Reagan was another ordinary guy who just. You say, well, he was an actor. Yeah, he'd done his thing, been out in the world. And, he understood it to be a responsibility. He was an entertainer too, which Trump has largely become. Right? Now the other piece, so again, juvenile texting not worthy of the office the day after the 4th of July. It was a little depressing. Here we are 2 days after, but yeah. The other piece is the CNN piece. Absurd, right? So for those of you that don't know, a guy, or Trump tweeted a video of him from WWE days grappling a guy and throwing him to the ground and beating on him or whatever. Again, WWE, all fake. With the CNN logo imposed over the head of the guy that he's beating on. And CNN Shapiro has a great video on it. Just lit themselves on fire in response. Saying that he's encouraging violence. Right, and that when a media person gets attacked, it's going to be on his hands. Okay, when Deb talks about shooting the president, when Madonna talks about lighting that place on fire, Kathy Griffin does a severed head, okay? And then a guy, well, not then, but, within that context, you have an environment like that, and a guy goes and shoots Republican congressman, Right? Scalise was readmitted to the ER yesterday. A Bernie supporter. Okay, I'm not going to say that it's the fault of those things, right? And you didn't either. The media didn't say either that it was the responsibility, it was the fault of the tone of the Democrats or whatever, or of the left, because it's not. He's an individual who makes choices. All right. Does it set an environment? Yeah. Okay. It's questionable, but it's not the responsibility. I'm classical liberal. Individuals are responsible for their own actions. So CNN then proceeds to, and this is where it gets even worse. They proceed to essentially blackmail the guy who they think is the source of it. So they go through Reddit and they track down this guy, on asshole solo or something, and they claim that he was the source of the meme, and they try to reach out to him and they don't. So they threaten to reveal his identity if he doesn't clean up his post and apologize. So this, some Reddit guy in his basement, some guy who's just thought it would be goofy to, shop something on there, right? I mean, seriously. And anybody who knows it knows it's a joke. First of all, anybody with a brain knows the WWE is a joke. Sorry if I'm shattering any bubbles there, but that it's not real. So you do this, and you're taking something that's not real, that's staged, and you're making it more ridiculous. Okay. Anybody with an ounce of sense knows that it's a joke, and it's a video, and it's not designed or encouraging violence towards them. So they come out and they make this guy apologize. Now, Shapiro's posted a video yesterday saying that it's not even the right guy. Okay, that he wasn't even the source of it, and that BuzzFeed has vetted and discovered that it was someone completely different. But they essentially said, and we reserve the right to reveal his identity if he crosses the line again. Basically what they said, right? Because he apologized and promised not to do it anymore and cleaned up his site. Because he turned out to have a bunch of anti-Semitic stuff. The user, this Han Solo guy, okay, anti-Semitic jokes. No, free speech. So essentially you have a media organization intimidating the free speech of an individual and blackmailing them into not exercising their free speech, however disagreeable or venomous it may be. And still expecting to retain credibility. Not in this country. Not in a nation of sovereigns. Not when you mess with the sovereignty of an individual. That guy has the right to be an asshole. He has the right to post inappropriate memes. Even racist ones. I can disagree with him, but he has the right to post them. And the battlefield of ideas is where that'll be settled. You don't have the right to interfere with the sovereignty of another individual through coercion, because you happen to be your organization happens to be a bigger monarch than he is. It doesn't give you the right to oppress him. Not in a nation that celebrates its independence and its sovereignty. Yeah? Not in a nation that understands that it's better, far, far better, to do right than to be right. That's more important, that we do right than that we be right. Yeah? So, some thoughts. The soundtrack of America. Simon and Garfunkel in the background. Thanks for watching, everybody. Cheers.